Okay, Rabotai. Zos matzeves kvuras hachacham Hashem shmoyda v'shar meluma b'nisim al kor Avraham Azulai shenisbakish b'yeshiva shomal v'shnas. Look at the sign. It says Taf Kuf Samach Gimel, which is 1903, which is wrong. It's a mistake. It's an outright mistake. That's why originally they didn't think he was buried here. They thought this is Rabbi Avraham Azulai IV, the grandson of the one we're about to go to. They even made a mistake on the Kever itself. The date on the Kever itself is incorrect. But this, they ultimately found, here it says, here, let's see.
The yellow one.
The yellow one? Okay. No. Okay, Rabbi said, perhaps we could say in this entire trip, this is the most mesugal kever to daven at. This is, no question, the kever of Rabbi Avraham Azulai, the first of Morocco, the third in history. The Chidah writes about him words that he doesn't say about anybody else. Firstly, the Chidah says that he heard that Rabbi Avraham Azulai was a relative of his great-great-grandfather, the Chesed li Avram. He says, Shamati sharav Avraham Azulai hayakarov lemoiri zekeni the Baal Chesed li Avram. Now it's very interesting. They originally thought this was the kever of his grandson because of the mistaken date. It says Tav Kuf Tzadi Gimel. He was not nifter in Tav Kuf Tzadi Gimel. The Chidah says that he has a tradition, and there's somewhat of an error regarding this as well. The Chidah brings that he has a tradition that he was nifter. I'll tell you, the Chidah says that he was nifter in Taf Tzadi Ches. Taf Tzadi Ches, which is 1738. However, the tradition is that he was nifter in 1741. Let me tell you a little bit about Rav Avraham Azulai. First of all, he was a Talmud in Nigla from Rav Yitzchak di Levia. We're going to, Be'ez Hashem, go to his kever. Rabbi Yitzchak de Levia was a student of the Beis Yosef. Okay, you understand? He was a Talmud of the Baal Shulchan Aruch. And Rabbi Avraham Azulai learned by Rabbi Yitzchak de Levia. That's who he learned from in Halacha. In Kabbalah, he was a student of Rabbi Mordechai, he was a student of Rabbi Yaakov Maraji. Rabbi Yaakov Maraji. Now, Rabbi Avraham Azulai had a best friend, Rabbi Shlomo Amar. We're going to talk about, they used to learn Zayar together. We're going to talk about some of their correspondence and some of their learning together. His students, the Chidah says, Rabbi Yaakov Pinto, Rabbi Shaya HaKohen. Now, Rabbi Avraham Azulai was the great Rav over here in Marrakesh. And on one particular occasion, an officer was riding on a horse, and the officer's foot got stuck in the opening of the sewer, and it uncovered a very bad stench. And they decided to open it up, and they found over there the body of one of the locals. And there was a blood libel here. They blamed Rabbi Avraham Azulai, and together with Rabbi Avraham Azulai, they imprisoned a number of other Gedolim. They were his Chavrusa, Rav Shlomo Amar, Rav Yeshua Shoshana, Rav Shlomo Halevi, Rav Shlomo Busasa. They locked them up. They put them in jail. They took them to Fez. In Fez, for some reason, for Shabbos, they brought them to Sali. Who's the Rav in Sali? Rav Moshe ben Atar. Rav Moshe ben Atar is the father of the Archaim HaKadosh. The father of the Archaim HaKadosh sees Rabbi Avraham Azulai is in peril because he's imprisoned on trumped-up charges of blood libel. So he asks the officers, could he host them for Shabbos? He hosted them for Shabbos with Rabbi Avraham Azulai chained up in iron chains. And after Shabbos, they bring Rabbi Avraham Azulai and his chaverim to the king. And the king sees on the head of Rabbi Avraham Azulai literally an eish that was yored min hashamayim. He saw his an exceptional kedusha, and he let him go free. So this is Rabbi Avraham Azulai. Now let me tell you what the Chidah says about him. These are words he literally says about nobody. Okay, about his own great-great-grandfather, the Chida says, Avraham Azulai. That's it. Marenu Harav Avraham Azulai. About this one, Harav, HaChassid, HaMefursam, HaMekubal, Eloki, meaning the divine one, the godly one. He says, V'shamati mipi magidei emes. I heard from true reports. Shaharav Shama. Rabbi Avraham Azulai once heard people were saying, what does Azulai stand for? Isha, Zaina, V'chalala, Loi Yikachu. You ever hear that? Isha, Zona, V'chalala, Loi Yikachu. But he got very angry. He said, that's not a very nice last name. Don't take a woman who's a Zona, V'chalala. So he said, anyone who says that, he put them in Chiram. Furthermore, remember we mentioned that he is the Rebbe of the Arachaim HaKadosh. Can you imagine? Avraham Azulai is the Rebbe of the Arachaim HaKadosh. The Chida says, I heard from my Rebbe, the Arachaim HaKadosh, how Rabbi Avraham Azulai would write Kameas. We are used to, what does a Kamea look like? It has different shemos, it has different, mystical permutations of Hashem's name. No. Says my Rebbe, in other words, this is the Chida saying what he heard from Reb Chaim ibn Atar, who is a student of Rabbi Avraham Azulai, that if somebody was sick, Rabbi Avraham Azulai would write on a piece of paper, in Oisios Rashi, he would say the following, Yehi Ratzoin, Shatishlach, Rafua, Leploini, Ben Ploini, Mechoili Ploini. So he would say, the Yankel ben Shimon, who has the flu. And then he would write, Amen Sela. That's it, nothing else. That was the whole Kameya. And he would give it to the Chayla, and it worked every time. If you got a Kameya from Rabbi Avraham Azulai, you were as good as new. And the Arachaim HaKadosh says that he's in possession of the Kameyas of Rabbi Avraham Azulai. Now, he says something amazing. He says, V'harav hanizkar, this Rabbi Avraham Azulai, hayamalumad benisim. Okay? Again, not a frequent expression that the Chida uses. We had that one other time. Who else did the Chida says is malumad benisim? Rabbi Yehuda ben Atar. Udvarav nishmaim b'shamayim. Whatever he said in heaven, they followed him. The heavens followed Rabbi Avraham Azulai. And then, utfilasoi eina chayzeres reikam. His prayers were never turned away empty-handed. So here we are. We're in a zone. This individual, this great tzaddik, ein tfilasoi chayzeres reikam. As Hashem, in this makom, all of our tfilos should be neskabel barachim and baratzain. We're going to say Kuf Chaf Aleph.
This one got answered.
What?
This one also got answered.
Wow. Shalom Alois, Esoinai Aleh.